Nice to meet you all. I'm Marina Orsini-Jones. I'm organizer of this symposium. I'm very glad to see how many people have joined us, and many are still joining us. And I hope you can hear me all right. I tend to be quite loud, so you should hear me all right. Are you hearing me all right?
Loud and clear, Marina.
I suspected that was the case. So we are recording, which means if you don't want to be in the recording, because we will put the recording, we will upload on the web page the recording of the symposium. If you don't want your face to be uploaded online, please go off camera now. It might be better actually to be off camera when the speaker speaks. We just want the person who speaks, and possibly me, because I have to keep an eye on everything, on camera. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will have question and answer sessions as we go along, but we'll keep them to the end. So we'll keep the questions a bit later, but we'll keep an eye on the actual chat as well to see what you're asking. I suspect Teresa will do something interactive. She tends to do things like that in a keynote. So I'm expecting a bit of interaction there. And I think without much further ado, we're going to start with a very famous first speaker. He is Davide Gilmartin, and I'm very proud to say he has a bit of Italian blood in him like me. And he is the academic manager for the British Council Vietnam. And with him is also Nga Le, who works with him at the British Council Vietnam. And this project has been funded by the British Council and the National Foreign Language Policy Initiative Project Vietnam. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Davide and Nga for being here. And without much further ado, we'll start with Davide. We will follow Tui and I in the same session, then the keynote, and then we'll have the mediators who have worked in breakout rooms, participants who have turned into mediators and initial mediators, and then we will have reflections on the initial research findings we are finding from the project. So over to you, Davide, if you'd like to make a start. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Marina, and good evening, everybody in Vietnam, and good afternoon, everybody in the UK, and wherever else you might be around the world. I've heard from Marina's introductions, people are in different parts of the world as well. So yes, as Marina says, my name is Davide Guarini Gilmartin, half Italian, half Irish, British born, but Vietnamese raised, having been here for the last 23 years in Vietnam. So yes, I think I've had many bases covered. As Marina says, I'm the EES academic manager for British Council here in Vietnam, and my colleague Miss Nga is also here, and we've been involved in this project. So what I'd like to do in the next 10 minutes, I will keep my eye on the time, is just give a very brief overview about the British Council, about our work as EES. What is EES, you may be wondering. Talk a little bit about our track record in digital innovation, and then finish by talking a little bit about the Digital Learning Innovation Fund, which is a pilot project here in Vietnam, and the ViVEXELT is one of those projects that was selected, as Marina just mentioned. So the British Council, oops, what's happening there? Yes, so the British Council, I'm sure hopefully you know, we were founded in 1934, the UK's international organization for culture and education. We build connections, understanding and trust in a mutually beneficial way between people in the UK and in other countries, and through three main areas: arts and culture, education, and English language. And we're looking very much at the English language and education part of that. And in 2019-2020, the year before the pandemic, we connected with 80 million people directly, and with almost 800 million people overall, including through online operations, online streams, and through broadcasts and publications as well. So that's just a very brief introduction to the British Council. EES stands for English for Education Systems. And from this year, from 2021, our framework is organized into three key impact areas: ELT, English Language Teaching and Education; English and Empowerment, and English Connects, which is our digital theme. So again, you'll start to see me talking about the importance of digital, both before the pandemic and now during and after the pandemic. On the right-hand side there, you can see our website, a global website, Teaching English. Hopefully you are familiar with that website. So as I mentioned, the English for Education Systems framework, we have kind of three main areas, and underneath that we have different strands, different areas of activity. And if you look at the bottom, you can see there, we also talk about inclusion, about digital, about EdTech. These are some of the cross-cutting themes in the work of the British Council in our English for Education Systems part of the operations, the educational operations of the British Council and of EES. As Marina said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. Unfortunately, I can't look at those at the moment because I'm looking at my screen, at my PowerPoints on my screen. So in Vietnam, the British Council has been operating in Vietnam since 1993. I joined in 2003, having arrived in Vietnam in 1999. And since then, we've cooperated very closely with both the Ministry of Education and Training and, as Marina mentioned, the National Foreign Languages Project, more widely known as NFLP, on a wide variety of projects and programs over the last 20 years, since I think about the year 2000. So the ELT development that we do as part of the English for Education Systems and the British Council has always been in collaboration with and in support of the strategy, first of MOET, of the Ministry of Education and Training, and latterly with the NFLP as well and their 2025 strategy. So this is a priority area for us. And as I say, we're continually seeking ways to improve and support MOET and the NFLP in order to have a more inclusive, more quality English language teaching, learning and assessment here and across Vietnam. So those are the areas that we're looking at. That's a little bit of background, very brief background to British Council and our work in English for Education Systems. I now want to move on to talk very briefly about our track record in terms of digital innovation, because that will then lead us into the project and tonight's symposium. So yeah, I think back in 2008, we created what was then known as the VTSN, the Virtual Teacher Support Network, which was called Teaching English in Vietnam. If you remember before, I showed you the Teaching English Global website page. And this was a project as part of the East Asia Access English program. So again, some of the people on the call, like Tom, were part of the Primary Innovations Project. That was also part of this program. So that was one of the first things we did in the digital sphere. We then in 2013 worked with Nokia and with Pearson on a project called Bridget, which was down, I think, in Ho Chi Minh City. In 2017, we had a large-scale global review of innovation projects across the globe and how they could be used or adapted as instructive modes for the NFLP, and looking at some of their work. And this led to another consultancy, which was from some British Council EdTech digital people, consultants, looking at the development of a national open online learning center for NFLP. And that is still something which is in development. We're having discussions with NFLP about how that can come to fruition. Oh, I can't see my final comment. Is that? Yes. And that has all of these things have led to this year's Digital Learning Innovation Fund. Let me just move that bar down. Okay, that's better. Oops.
3 minutes, Davide.
Sure.
Thanks.
So yeah, so thank you, Marina. So the Digital Learning Innovation Fund, as I say, is very much a response to COVID. In February 2020, COVID kind of hit Vietnam. Schools and universities were closed. Throughout 2020, the British Council globally and the EES teams globally created what was known as a digital task force and put out a lot of activities and webinars and Facebook Lives on the Teaching English platform. For example, on the right-hand side there, you can see the remote teaching tips that was created. And again, you can find that on the Teaching English website. In September 2020, we announced this project, the sort of the genesis of what became the Digital Learning Innovation Fund, which we have today. And then in January of this year, we opened the call for the Digital Learning Innovation Fund pilot with 2 themes and a briefing session. And as a result of that, we received 9 application proposals. So the Digital Learning Innovation Fund itself, this is the third and final part of my short presentation this evening, was again designed to support NFLP in their ambitions to improve teaching and learning of English, to look at more inclusive and more accessible approaches to English language teaching and learning through digital and education technology. So again, you can see many of the themes from earlier being repeated here, and also designed to encourage collaboration between partners in the UK and Vietnam. And that leads us to the 2 briefs that I just mentioned earlier. One of the options was to look at piloting and co-developing digital content. Again, looking at learners, looking at teachers, teacher educators. And you can see many of the elements there that you will have experienced through the ViVEXELT project. The second theme was to look at capacity building. And again, I think the projects that we've selected, including the one that we're here tonight to celebrate, have really taken on board those 2 themes. So the selection criteria you can see there, I'm just going to go through those very, very briefly. Again, when we assessed the 9 applications, we looked at aspects of innovation, collaboration, the impact they can have both during the project and beyond the project period, as well as the quality and the value for money as well. So as a result, in March of this year, 3 projects were selected and later launched. On the right-hand side, you can see our launch event in May. I think you can see Marina in the top right corner there. Twee, I don't know where Twee is. Twee should be there somewhere. You're hiding, Twee. I don't know where you're hiding. So there were 3 projects that were selected. One was the Digital English Theatre Project, which operates mainly in the Mekong Delta, which was a collaboration between International House Belfast. The Hands Up Project, which those of you who may know won one of the Elton Awards at the British Council Eltons last Monday. And the third, the Vietnamese partner, was Hunter University down in the Mekong Delta. So that was the first project. The second, in no particular order, there's no first, second, or third. The second was the Virtual Mentoring and Online CPD program. So program, not course, for grade 6 teachers. This was a project created and partnered by International House London, separate from International House Belfast, a separate entity, and with the Hanoi Pedagogical University number 2, who are based just outside Hanoi here. So they're the second of the 3 projects. And the third, but by no means the last project, is ViVEXELT itself, okay, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. If not, hopefully the symposium over the next 2.5 hours will make it much clearer to the audience. So before I finish and hand back to Marina and Twee, just a very quick plug. Coming up in December, we have our New Directions conference, which is an language assessment conference, focused very much on East Asia, but can be of global interest. So again, you can see the QR code on there, and I'll put the link to that in the chat as well once I finish speaking. And finally, we have a number of webinars ongoing all the time, so please check our Facebook page or our website. But in terms of the digital projects, tonight we're celebrating ViVEXELT through this symposium, but on Saturday the 18th, we're going to have a presentation, a webinar from one of the other projects, the Digital English Theatre Project, explaining a little bit more about the work they've been doing. And hopefully in January, February and March, we'll hear more from ViVEXELT and from the third project as well. So that's just a little plug for what's coming up in the next few weeks. They're the projects, and I'm very pleased to open this evening's symposium and wish everybody the best. Looking forward to some very interesting presentations and sessions this evening, and hand back to Marina and Twee and wish you all the very best for the event this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Davide. Can we all clap if we can? A nice reaction of clapping for Davide. And if we can, yes. And I think I now won't be able to undo my hand because I never know how to do that when I've done it. But anyway, and I'll take it down. Okay, so what I'd like to do now, could you please stop sharing the screen, Davide,
Yes.
so we can share ours?
Yep. There you go.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
So I think we are running 10 minutes late already. Apologies, but we wanted to give a chance to people to come in. And in fact, around 20 people came in a bit late. So we'd like to now start with our introduction. So I think I already mentioned who I am, and I'm a co-investigator with Tui. Over to Tui.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tui. I am the co-lead from Vietnam. I am also the language policy researcher and also deputy head of the External Affairs Office at Hanoi University of Science and Technology. Marina.
And yeah, thank you very much again to the British Council for financing this project. And it comes within the themes that David has just shown to you. So we want to create a community of practice and hopefully a sustainable one, which has an intercultural, international approach, which is virtual exchange. And Teresa will be pleased to see that this definition comes from the group she's part of, Uni Collaboration. So we enable sustained technology-enabled research informed, quite important because not all virtual exchanges do research. People-to-people education programs or activities in which constructive communication and interaction takes place between individuals and or groups who are geographically separated and from different cultural backgrounds with the support of educators and facilitators. And I hope that the ViVEXELT participants who are here today recognize that definition as what we've been doing. So next, I'm not going to read all these questions. These are our research questions. They link with the community of practice, they link with digital competencies, they link with sustainable community, which we're hoping to take forward, depending on further funding from the British Council as well. Hello, Davide. And we want to do a student-centered pedagogical approach, and also the idea of reflecting on practice and reflecting to become meta-reflective teachers. So this is a team. And this is our team. The team's changed slightly. We had a slight rejig on the technical side, but not major. And I'm pleased to say that a participant who was participant and trainer from the first round has now become core team. And this is, I'll leave this to Tui. But from my point of view, we have Kate Borthwick, and I'm glad to say she's Dr. Kate Borthwick now, just defended a PhD dissertation. So congratulations to Kate, friend and doctor now. And she's our consultant to help us creating beautiful videos. She's an expert on MOOCs. And we also have, from my part, Jenny Wells, fundamental, pivotal research assistant, super organized. Rachel is our amazing website designer. Farida is as a dual hat because she's a participant, a student on the master triple hat, and she's also manager at the Migrant and Refugee Center, which is a partner. Over to you, Tui.
So I'm proud to introduce our team. Besides me, we have Dr. Thơm. She is also very famous and experienced ELT teacher and trainer. And we have an innovative and a very active lecturer, Anh Nguyen from Tây Bắc University. And we also have an experienced trainer, Mr. Minh Tuấn Phạm. And beside that, we have a very efficient and passionate assistant for our project, Mr. Hoàng Nguyen. Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that for Hang. Is amazing. It's really amazing. So in terms of collaboration institutions, we have the Coventry Refugee and Migrant Center. So we also have a further widening participation, ethical dimension to what we do. And also University of Southampton, where Tim Berners-Lee, the man who created the internet, used to be based, is now retired. So, very proud to have such powerful partners. Now for Vietnam, over to you, Tui.
For Vietnam, when we got awarded with the project, we're very aware of the impact of the project to all ELT teachers and trainers and educators in Vietnam. And you can see that we have invited so many teachers and lecturers from different universities and schools all over Vietnam. And I have to say that nearly 40 universities and schools participating in our project so far. Thank you.
Yes, so yes, to you.
All right, so for the project, our mission is to provide a knowledge sharing and good practice through an online course. And we have two circles of over 200 participants enrollments. And they are ELT teachers, ELT trainers, and ELT students in teacher education in both UK and Vietnam. And we cover a wide range of topics. Some of them are introduction to our project and E6 that I think our colleague Marina will elaborate on that term later. And teaching speaking online, communicative grammar teaching online, and also tips and tricks to support online interaction together with a lot of reflection and practice. And for the material, we have videos and other material for teachers. We also provided with lesson plans on teaching speaking online for teachers to follow. Next one, please.
I'm just muting everybody because I can hear a bit of background noise. So what we also want to point out, what we're doing, as I said before, we try to get people really active in action. So we do a lot of things in the sessions, the live sessions, and participants work live on Padlets, on ideas board, on various tools at the time of the session. We also would like them, we try to encourage them to reflect on action afterwards. And we're borrowing from Sean and Man and Walsh, and a bit myself of taking forward some of these ideas. And of course, for action, for future teaching practice. And this is how we're monitoring the research process. So we have analytics in Open Moodle. We have the JISC online survey, which is privacy protected and very sound. We also will have journals. And in fact, in a session later on, the mediators will tell you about what happened in those journals and what initial results we are drawing from the journals. So next, and the other thing is this idea of the role reversal informed, action research informed by role reversal principles. What does it mean? It means we have students on the Masters in English Language Teaching who are expert students and help me and Tui and other teachers and also students from Vietnam help us see our practice through their eyes. So it's a kind of bottom-up way of doing action research in a role reversal, which involves powerful students, which is quite innovative. And we have been pioneering this at Coventry for a number of years. And of course, we've had 2 cycles, one June, July, one October, November. And we definitely made changes which are reflected in the new cycle. However, we can't reveal them yet because a lot of the participants are here. So we can't yet tell you what's happened because we're still looking through the data. Over to you, Tui. Tui? You need to unmute yourself, Tui, because I muted you.
Yes. All right. So in this project, we have utilized many platforms. The first one we could name is Open Moodle. This is a virtual learning environment for pre-section readings, asynchronous discussion forums, and knowledge sharing activities. We also use Zoom, that I think that all of you know, right? And Microsoft Teams. This is so effective for us for every week meeting and for confidential file storage. We use Padlet. This is an e-classroom collaborative work for synchronous and asynchronous activities. We have an online survey that covers enrollment survey, pre and post surveys. And for Microsoft Forms, after every section, every Wednesday, we conducted a short evaluation survey to know more about our practice. And in this project, we have introduced so many platforms and websites for teachers to employ in that everyday teaching. They are Slido, Answer Gardens, Idea Boards, and Mentees, etc.
Okay.
Marina.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so at the end of the 5-week course, what will you receive? you will be receiving, teachers and participants in general, will be receiving a certificate that's signed by Hanoi University of Science and Technology and Coventry. And you can see that with the prestigious logos of British Council and the National Foreign Languages Project of the Ministry of Education and Training of Vietnam. So we're very excited to share with you some initial results of our first cycle. The second cycle, we also very positive, but so far, this is for the first cycle. And you can see that for the question we asked whether our projects provided teachers with opportunity to develop and practice digital competency relevant to ELT. You can see nearly 100% of the participants agree with our with the project support. For the next one, we also interested in asking whether the participant, the project provided the participant with opportunity to become part of international community of ELT practice. And you can see that the number of participants agreed with this is really high. It's nearly 100% also. And the final one is also very encouraging for us. We have over 98% of participants say that they would like to continue participate in our project and take part in the later activities in the futures. And many of them also provide the reflection that they would like to organize their own virtual platform like this project for their communities and people. So I think that is a great impact that come out of our project. Over to you, Marina.
Yes, and I like to say, put the question in the chat and we keep the questions for later because we're running a bit late for Teresa to speak. I'd just like to say, I'm very excited to say that later we will have participants from both cycles who will report back on their experience. So, you know, the participants are feeding into the whole process and they will showcase their beautiful lesson plans to teach for teaching, speaking, and their reflections on what they gained from ViVEXELT. So without much further ado, I think I have to stop sharing now. And I'm going to ask Teresa to come in. I'm sorry, Teresa, we're running 10 minutes late, but it's not too bad. 11 minutes late.
No worries, no worries. I'm sure we'll be fine. And it's been really interesting to hear everything you and David have had to say. So thank you very much for that. It's really good to be here.
I just want to say perhaps just a word or two. Teresa is a motivator and inspirer. She is a pioneer of technology. She's a mediator, facilitator. She's passionate about badges and hence the title. And she's also somebody who introduced me to a lot of e-tools like Mahara and better use of Moodle, because I was using Moodle in a very rudimentary way, but then Teresa came to rescue and we did projects together. We've had ups and downs because working with technology can be not for the faint-hearted, as we all know. But I'm so glad Teresa's accepted to be here. And she used to be at Warwick University, where I used to be as well for some times, you know, language center there. I worked there myself for 7 years before Teresa's time, many years ago. But I'm glad to see she's here. And now she's decided to be a super consultant in her retirement, very early retirement. I'm very jealous. Over to you, Teresa.
Thank you very much. I hadn't considered myself a super consultant at all. I have retired, but as you'll see in what I'm going to talk to you about today, I'm also still very busy and very active. But I also feel hugely disadvantaged here. I am not an English language teacher. So please feel free to correct my English. I hope my English will stand up to examination. I'm actually a French and Spanish language educator. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, and I will try and make it as relevant as possible to your context, is virtual exchange. And really, I'm going to reflect on my experiences of virtual exchange. So before I share my screen, I just want to leave a link in the chat here. And it'll become apparent what that's there for in a moment. Let me just share my screen. And one of the things I'm going to do today is something I've started doing quite regularly in virtual exchange sessions, and that is to break the fourth wall, to show you what's going on behind the scenes as I share my screen. So I'm sharing some slides which I've prepared in my Google slide deck, and you can see here my title. And what I'm going to talk about today is not actually a lot of academic reflections, because those are already published and available, and thanks to ViVEXELT for publishing my links as well to my ORCID profile. So if you want to know more academically about the work I've been involved in, you have those links, and obviously please do download the papers and read them. I'm going to take a more personal look today at the impact that virtual exchange has had on my life. And just to give you a brief sort of background, I have just completed and just retired, as Marina said, 35 years of working as a language educator. The first 15 of those were in secondary schools, teaching French and Spanish in secondary schools and heading up a language department in the UK. And then the following 20 years were working in higher education, and my focus really is largely on the work here that I've done in higher education. But I wanted you to know that I have experience teaching not just in one sector. I was an early adopter of technology, so that really goes back to my days in schools when I started using technology. In those days, the CD-ROM was the most revolutionary thing you could use, so it does go back a little while. And during my more recent history, I undertook professional development to become a learning technologist. And I am a qualified learning technologist and a certified member of the Association for Learning Technology. And that actually has been a journey that's been very helpful for the work that I've been doing with the organization Uni Collaboration. So I'll be sharing the journey that I've been on in virtual exchange, and the work that I now do to support Uni Collaboration and their mission to help normalize virtual exchange, a mission which I must say was hugely impacted by COVID, of course, when everybody decided that virtual exchange, or at least online learning, was the only way we were going to move forward. But I think I would like to put to you some of the learning that we can bring from the research that's happened in virtual exchange over the last 10 years. And that really has emerged from computer-mediated communication. One of the networks that I'm very much involved in, which is Eurocall, has a very useful SIG, a special interest group that I've been involved in as well. So I'm going to talk about borders, I'm going to talk about bubbles, I'm going to talk about badges. And if you are active on Twitter, you can find me as @WarwickLanguage. But if you Google my name, you will certainly find me online. I spend a lot of time online. Largely that really emerged because once the internet was up and running, I discovered the power of the internet to connect me to continuing my professional development as a language educator. At the time, I had 2 very young children and time was short, and it was very helpful to use the web to support my professional development. So I came to virtual exchange nearly 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago now, serendipitously really, through a connection with another language educator in France. And we together formulated a project to bring our cohorts together. It's a large-scale virtual exchange project, something that just grew out of a conversation over an education post on a blog, and that developed into a very strong network that initially was student focused and student learner focused, and that grew actually into a teacher education network as well, and became very large scale and connected France, Warwick in the UK, and Poland as well. it utilized social and informal networks. That was perhaps the one thing, apart from the scale, that distinguishes it from your average virtual exchange at the time. So we particularly wanted to make sure that students used the tools that they were already using in order to connect and to make them part of their lifelong learning. Now, I won't spend much time on this because thanks to Marina, who's already pointed it out, the definition of what a VE is. Well, of course, the most important part of this is that over recent years, so I'm talking 3 to 4 years, thanks to COVID, it's kind of stretched a little bit. There have been 2 very important outputs, if you like, that have really helped grow knowledge and understanding of virtual exchange. One of those was a European project called the Evolve project. And if you Google Erasmus Evolve, you will find the website there. It's very much a research initiative, and it was an international project with a good deal of experience drawing from those language educators and the many failures that we experienced and finding ways to address those. So Evolve did a good deal to support knowledge and understanding around virtual exchange and to research experiences that practitioners have in virtual exchange. And that, coupled with a teacher education project around virtual exchange, have produced some really useful downloadable resources. The second initiative really that came again from Europe, from the EU, was the Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange Initiative. Now this was led by a consortium, so Uni Collaboration was one of the members of that consortium, and the vital contribution really that it made was to scale up and to extend virtual exchange, and particularly help to connect those of us in Europe with those in North African countries. And that was a really useful and important development for virtual exchange. You can see there just from the numbers how many people engaged with Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange, and the very positive reflections on that experience. The experience wasn't just about higher education courses, although it did include higher education courses and training practitioners to deliver virtual exchange, interdisciplinary virtual exchanges, which have been very, very valuable. But it also included resources and initiatives for things like dialogue facilitation and debate online. So the consortium offered a range of interpretations of virtual exchange. And as I say, that has recently completed. So what does virtual exchange do? Well, essentially we help to foster dialogue and meaningful connection across distance. We look to close psychological distance between individuals who are geographically distinct and who may well have different cultural backgrounds and may well not have the most helpful of perceptions of each other. And really, essentially, that sort of using computers to mediate those sorts of flexible spaces can be quite challenging. So I'm thinking of spaces online which are welcoming, spaces which host interactions, which enable you to move fluidly around the internet to where you want to be in order to have different conversations and to give space for interaction. So constantly within this planning and development, when we think of teacher education, we have to encourage criticality in choices of spaces and understanding what's going on behind different spaces. So as this is a plenary keynote, I wanted to make sure that we had a shared space. And there's the QR code. I did mention this earlier. If you're reading QR codes, and David, thank you for using QR codes there. I think they're really, really useful ways of getting to places in cyberspace. So if you have a device, you can scan that QR code. If you don't, you can pop in the chat and use the link that I shared at the beginning. Now, this is very similar to a Padlet board. I'm going to leave it available, obviously, for the rest of the day. And essentially what you can do, and I will just break the fourth wall here and open it for you so you can see it, is you click on the big pink button here, and you're going to just add some reflection on virtual exchange, perhaps your experience of virtual exchange, perhaps something that happened to you on virtual exchange, so you can help to populate this board with information about your experience of virtual exchange. Seeing as I've got the very
Sorry, Teresa, it's coming up
helpful-
in. Sorry, Teresa, to interrupt. It's coming up in French for me on the phone.
Yes, it may do. It may do,
Okay.
because it is actually set up as French. So let me just
Okay.
run through the headings.
I'm happy with French.
You can, yes, I don't think that'll be a problem for you, Marina. So at the top, it may say title, and there's a space there to put text into a text box, and you can highlight that text and add links if you wish to, or you can upload a file or an image. So feel free to experiment. It's your browser settings, and actually this this particular board is made in French because clearly I use it in French. It's an open source version, if you like, of Padlet that was created in France, but you can run it in Spanish and in Italian, so other languages are available. It's all free. So I just wanted to show you that because it's perhaps not familiar. We're more familiar with Padlet. It would be nice to be able to capture some of your experiences of virtual exchange and your reflections on them. What you can see here, and I'll also just open this in a new tab so that I can show you, is that as a result of all the increased attention to virtual exchange, what you can see is quite an increase here reflected in a Twitter visualization of the various connections that have been going on. And this is really important. These are things that we need to happen. More of that in a moment. So let's return to the slides. As I say, I'll leave that Padlet, that board open so that you can continue to think a little bit about what you might like to share with others about your experiences of virtual exchange. When we come to virtual exchange from an institutional perspective, and we ask perhaps for a shared space, one of the things we run up against constantly is the fact that institutions tend to create their spaces as spaces that are shared only within members of their institutions. So essentially we kind of create the sort of discourse that unfortunately we have been victims of for many years now around walls and borders and keeping people out. Not the most helpful when what we're trying to do is to foster interaction and connection and understanding of each other's different contexts. So virtual learning environments or course management systems usually have sets of policies about who can use them and controls and authentication to make sure only certain people can use them. So they create walled gardens, if you like. So this is one of my first sets of reflections really on virtual exchange over the past 10 years, and that is that actually we really need to think a little bit about creating holes in our walled gardens so that we can invite people from outside our institutions to participate in these sorts of activities. And this needs to be part of our infrastructure within higher education institutions in particular. So that there are ways of permeating those walls and working with people who perhaps can't afford to attend our institutions, perhaps people who are collaborating with us over a short period of time. And I'm leaving this link for you perhaps to revisit on the slides later. But I did a bit of a project, and as I mentioned in my abstract, I'm an open practitioner, an open education practitioner. What matters to me is that learning can be discoverable. And although being open is quite a complex and a tricky thing to do, we need to help our learners understand about how they can be more open online, but also protect themselves online. And I'm really glad to see that you're making use of Mahara, because I think Mahara is a wonderful technology for scaffolding that understanding of the importance of letting both light in from outside and letting your lights out too. So a really important journey that I think we have to go on is to help make sure that we don't just consolidate the discourse around borders and closing walls and keeping people and things out, but that we find suitable compromises for specific purposes. And this has nowhere been made more clear, actually, than the work of Laura Czerniewicz and others. And there's been some really good publications as a result of our experiences of COVID. One of the things that has happened is we've all shifted online through this pivot because of the pressures to make sure people can connect with their institutions and complete their schooling or their learning, is that we then start to realize the things we took for granted when our students were within our institution, that they had devices they needed, that they had access to the internet they needed, actually was not the general case when those people were confined at home. Their home situations then became much more apparent. Perhaps they didn't have the devices they needed. Perhaps they didn't have the bandwidth they needed. In many cases, their devices were insufficient. They just were not set up with the sort of bandwidth that was needed. Certainly, there was not universal free access to the internet. So for many people, that has really made the problem of education at a distance more obvious, and it's increased some of these inequalities that perhaps we were able to ignore before. Inequalities of access in particular. And this is something that we talk about a lot in the uni collaboration teacher training. So we look at how we can deal with facilitating collaboration that is truly accessible, that is more readily available to our partners, and that invites and welcomes and hosts those partners in spaces. So in some cases that may mean thinking about the amount of synchronous and asynchronous work we do. We've certainly seen the impacts of that in the UK in the schooling systems, where there was just an assumption that school children would be turned into autonomous who just sat in front of screens all day. And in fact, that was just not the case and not feasible, not helpful for people's mental health or for their skill development. We have to think about privacy. We have to think about regulation, in some cases, policies such as GDPR. We have to think about accessibility, and this isn't just a case of dealing with people with disabilities, because in many cases we don't even know that we have disabilities until we come up against them. So we can't assume that people who are disabled know what is necessarily needed for them, and we have to make the assumption that everybody will have some issues, and therefore we design to ensure that we make things as accessible as possible. Projects such as Future Teacher 3.0, I would point to there as a great source of information and support on the accessibility of learning spaces, for example. We have to deal with the issues of cost, and that's not just economic and not just financial cost to the individual, and economic cost maybe to the institution, but also the environmental impact of moving everything online. So we start to think about that. And very often we find our students know very little about copyright online. So all of these are issues that we deal with and meet in uni collaboration training, and we think about. So on to my second topic, bubbles. Concerns here about echo chambers and bubbles when we use social media. There's plenty of those around. I would suggest here we put the focus more on algorithms, and we put the focus more on transparency and the importance of making sure that where algorithms are in existence, in Facebook, for example, those are transparent and people understand how they work. We're only just discovering and starting to surface, thanks to the pandemic, just how damaging some of those algorithms and artificial intelligence can be, particularly for people of colour and people at the margins. We have to think about bringing our bubbles together. So I'm a big user of Twitter, as I've mentioned already, but there are lots of different social media bubbles out there. And actually, I think there is value in bringing bubbles together and creating shared spaces where we can enrich our understanding of each other, and where we can perhaps use networks such as Twitter chats, open meetings online, and aggregate some of that content. It's that aggregation that you were seeing going on there in that Twitter visualization that I showed you just now. So what we would be doing here is using the privilege that we have as nations that do have reasonable access to the internet and reasonable technical infrastructure, using that privilege to support those who don't have a voice and engaging critically with what we have and forward progressing that conversation. Was really heartened to hear Marina saying just now about the double loop reflection that you're using. Have that conversation with your students, engage all your participants in your conversations about whether the technology works for them, helping to build bridges between disciplines and helping to find ways of emerging with new solutions. So finally, I'm going to come to the third of my B's, and that's badges. I do love a badge, Marina, you're so right. I do love a badge.
5 minutes.
Yeah, good. I just about fit this in. So badges really are just digital representations of, if you like, a recognition of something that you've completed and done. So in the Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange, we used open badges, and the open badge infrastructure, which actually arose from a competition many years ago to find innovative solutions to digital recognition. And we use them to help participants have a way of showing the experiences that they've had. So increasingly that takes place perhaps through their website or perhaps on LinkedIn or their social media networks. So issuing badges provides a way of hard coding data about the experience that they've had and giving each of those participants a takeaway badge to show off and also to put around and wrap around their digital presence. So as you can see, we created for Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange a set of competencies and criteria that we nurture in Virtual Exchange. And now, since the Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange consortium has finished, Uni Collaboration has continued to use Virtual Exchange badges in order to help our participants engage in planning their next steps in Virtual Exchange. So to move from being a participant to becoming an ambassador perhaps, or an implementer or a trainer in Virtual Exchange. So we offer recognition of those skills. Now, I've very quickly talked about badges. I could talk for hours about badges. So I'm just pointing you here to 2 downloadable papers with, in the case of the second paper, a very short report that tells you what badges are and how they can be used. So hopefully those additional resources, if this is an area you're interested in, will be of help. Finally, I just want to end on 2 future thoughts. I have retired. My career in education has finished, but I profess to be a lifelong learner, and I certainly continue to work with some very wonderful people in Uni Collaboration. Virtual Exchange is a pedagogy that enables us to strengthen and build those skills that we need both as educators and as learners for the future. And I think these words here just help to encapsulate this. And finally, from a UNESCO report very recently, a very important aspect of this is actually thinking about our critical appraisal of what we do. And again, that's a facet of our work in virtual exchange that we work very closely with teachers on. So we're thinking about sustainable educational futures. I would like to think that our planet will be safe in the hands of our educators and our leadership. I would also like to think that education and teaching will continue to help give people the opportunities that I have been fortunate enough to have over my career. And so I will stop my sharing and pop some links into the chat. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Teresa. You're also to time, your half hour, in fact, 2 minutes less than your half hour allocated. So thank you very, very much. Can we show great appreciation for Teresa? Either clap or put your hands clapping. And thanks you very much for this thought-provoking talk. And I was just thinking, because we're running a bit late, whether we should take a 5-minute comfort break and then move on, and we keep all the questions for the end. But if there is something really, somebody dying to ask a question, no, I can't see actually any, so we can keep them for the end perhaps. And if anybody wants to ask questions, just put them in the chat. As I say, because we're conscious of what Zoom does to our eyes and our concentration, I think we'll take, I would say 5 minutes. I make it 2 here. Is it, what is it, 8, 9? Now I'm losing count. What is it in Vietnam? Anybody can help?
It's 9, that's sharp.
9. Okay, so let's say 9:05, we come back. We just take a 5-minute break, and then we resume with our fantastic lesson plans, I think. And can I just confirm before we part, actually I'll give you an extra minute later, I believe we have group 6, group 7, group 3, so 3, 6 and 7 presenting, and then Angela and Anne from the first course, correct? And I hope I am, because we only got time for those groups anyway. So I would just say group 3, group 6, group 7, Angela and Anne. I can't remember what group you were, Angela and Anne, from the first round. So we'll do that later. We'll just confirm. So now it is 9:01 for you and 2:01 for us. We resume at 9:06 and 2:06. And I'll pause recording. And I'd like to welcome our ViVEXELT participants, many expert teachers, many teacher trainers, many students in teacher education, whom we asked to put together a lesson plan on teaching speaking online, because it emerged that that was the major issue we were encountering in the online sphere. How do we teach teaching English language online? And so we thought we would challenge ourselves to a nice lesson plan, and we put together a few examples, and some volunteers have volunteered. Many produced amazing lesson plans. And I like to say the people presented today are amongst those, and excellent work. So thank you, everybody. Perhaps we start in order of number. So we start with number 3, which was my group, but I have no credit to take for that. It was all them doing it. So the theme was the Sustainable Development Goal from the OU, United Nations, UN. And they were supposed to pick a sustainable goal which was relevant to the context of Vietnam, and design a lesson plan inspired partly by what they learned on ViVEXELT and partly inspired by what they know already. And the idea was to knowledge share across sectors And so the groups were mixed. We didn't do just higher education or schools or primary. There was a good mix of all sorts of schooling systems. The brief was 50 minutes or an hour of lesson, and they had to pick their students. They decided what to do. I understand that some groups have actually tried out their lesson plan. So I'm very, very looking forward to hearing what they have to say. So shall we start with group 3? Is it Tan? Are you presenting for group 3?
Yes, me.
Oh,
Hong
yo,
Kong
sorry. Okay, sorry. Because, oh, yes, oh, you got the background as well. Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, can
Yeah.
I take a picture? I'll take a screenshot. Amazing. You've actually got the screenshot of your group. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So really excited about this. I gave you 8 minutes. I can be generous, give you 10 if you want. And
Okay.
we're starting now. So over to you, group. And did you give yourself a name as a group? Did you decide on a name?
So we name ourselves at group 3 only.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine. So you can start. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. It is my pleasure to deliver our very carefully planned, designed lesson plan on behalf of my group, which is room 3 in this ViVEXELT course. Together we have created the lesson plans, and also together we have really tested or experimented it on the 21st of November, the very next day after the Teachers' Day. And we did have fun with the students, a group of about 50 students of age from 13 to 16 of B1 and B2 levels. So after that, we have edited a little bit, and here is our plan. These are our group members, me, Hồng Vân Lê, and then Miss Duyên Nguyễn from Gymnasium School, Quế Nguyễn from Hải Phòng University, Miss Thành Võ from Trần Phú High School, and Mai Hương from Tây Nguyên University, and Miss Hằng Lê from Central Pre-University School for Ethnic Minorities. So that is a very mixed levels, as Marina says. And so the aims of this speaking lesson is to develop students' ability to speak fluently and interactively regarding the topic of saving water, saving life, that is inspired from the SDG number 6. The lesson objectives is that by the end of the lesson, the students will be able to talk about the importance of water, to deliver a mini presentation about bad effects of water crisis, and have solution as a global and local problem, and to increase their awareness of environmental problems and take responsibility in doing actions. They will be able to develop their 21st century learning skills with the 4 C's and their intercultural competencies as well. Before we start the lesson, we introduce to them what the SDG means from the United Nations with the entire 17 goals. And then to start the class, we have a warm-up activity within 5 minutes. We have the students solve a virtual jigsaw puzzle to find out the topic of the lessons. And here is the link to the jigsaw puzzle and where they put on the pieces together to make these pictures. And here is the pictures that they have created. And then they added it to the Padlet that we have put it onto their the link for them to submit their products. And with that, we make the introduction. We have the lead-in to the topic of the lesson about clean water and sanitation. That is the topic of the speaking class. And so after the lead-in, we have 10 minutes discussions. That is the speaking activity number 1. We have students make guesses to the 5 questions. Number 1, how many liters of water does a regular shower head use per year? How many liters of water does a person use each day? And then go on to number 3, 4, and 5. The students together, they read the questions and they make guesses only without reading, without searching the internet, without watching the videos, and they have the answers in their groups. And then we have them watch videos. This is the video. I can share a little bit of the video for you. Do you hear the sound? Probably not. Okay, but let me see, sorry. So this is the next activities. The student have 10 minutes to watch the movies, the video clips together. And after watching the videos, they have they stay in the breakout rooms and they discuss the questions that are provided before together. And now they have the answers based on their watching of the videos. The same question as the question before watching the videos. Here, all the students discussed their answers and recorded their responses onto the same Padlet that we have provided. And then they also make a short presentations in front of the class. We displayed the results of different groups on the Padlet so that everybody can see. And to let you know that in the breakout room, we have teachers who supported the students in different groups as mentors. And also to let you know a little bit about the students, they are from different provinces in Vietnam, from Đắk Lắk to Đắk Nông to Hanoi and Phú Thọ, but they were grouped together very randomly. So they had a lot of very good chance to exchange their information and their understanding their culture as well in their responses about these issues. So here is the kind of the slides that we have created for them so that they can put their answers on, and then they take a screenshot, they put it on the Padlet, and then they used it to share their responses orally in front of the class. The next activity we had after the watching of the video and presenting is to read a piece of newspaper article, an article on a newspaper on the Vietnam Express about the same topics, and with many beautiful, it's not really beautiful, many pictures about related to the water issues. This is about the Mekong Delta hit by the worst drought ever. And then the students have again another breakout rooms time for discussing in groups about facts about the water issues, and also about solutions, what they think the solutions are in order to save the water. They discuss question about what activities do people use water for, what are the impacts of lack of water, and why you think Vietnam is added to the list of countries with water shortage, and so on. So this time they not only talk about facts, they talk about solutions, their actions. In reality, you have to
2
stay.
more minutes, Ms. Hồng Vân. We have 2
Okay.
minutes. Yeah.
And then we provided support to the students in the breakout room. We had them join the breakout rooms with the same students previously. They read the article with the link on the Padlet. They discuss the guided questions. They take notes and present after the discussion. And with each group, we have a mentor to support. So here are the questions for them. And so we have by the end of the discussion, every student looked at their Padlets together, and then they presented their discussion results. For example, the breakout room 1 here, they have all the answers here, breakout room 2 here, and then they take turns presenting with each group with 2.5 minutes, and so we have 10 minutes for the activities. Before they exit the class, they have a look at quiz for students to go over all, and so they have quiz, and so they review on the lesson, and then we have the students with the winners, so we celebrated with them, and everybody finished the lesson with choice.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we also have a lot of plans for extensions for the project, so that we have international collaborative projects with a lot of activities to introduce to the students so that they can follow up after the class. And so that is the end of our lessons. And here is also the mentors that further support the projects. post after this activities, after this lesson. So we plan to have more kind of projects to go after the class to promote cultural awareness about the issue of topic of saving waters. If any of you here and your students are interested in joining these projects, you can scan this one to get to know more about the project, and also to contact us, the mentors here, so that we can all have our students to join together to have more collaboration, to develop more intercultural, not only among different countries, but also within Vietnam, in different parts of Vietnam as well. Thank you very much. And this is the end of our
amazing. This is amazing. Thank you very, very much.
And I would like to add a little bit. This project we've been done annually to celebrate the Water Day every year, and we will customize for different level from primary to secondary, upper secondary, and even also university. And we also include technology like STEM.
Well, this is amazing. So you've really created a community of practice already, a cross-sectional community of practice. You created an amazing lesson plan, which I believe you've given me permission to share on the ViVEXELT website. So this, if anybody liked what they saw today, I did. We're going to steal it from you and you reuse it and of course, adapt and adapt for our purposes, and we'll put it on the website. And if you like to write a little blog to accompany the process, how did you reflect on this? How did you work together? You seem to have worked together very nicely from day one. And of course, you have amazing, highly technical people there. I know Tan, for example, knew genially already, even before Bennett mentioned it. So we have amazing.
We have Miss Yuen and Miss Tan Vo, who are very kind of expert. We call it tech guru in our groups. So we work very well together. We had a lot of meetings together and we planned for this. We did have fun experimenting the lesson plan with the joining of 50 students in 4 different parts of Vietnam. So they had a lot of fun together on the very next day after the Teacher's Day, that is a Sunday.
You know what? I think I'll have to contact you again because we want to get a paper out of this as well. It's amazing. I really want to work with you. Thank you very much again. So without much further ado, next group, is it group 6 next? You ready? Yes? Who is speaking for group 6?
Now, please turn on your mic.
Okay, so can you please present your lesson? Of course, it's added value as well. You actually tested it out already. You already tried it out. Amazing. So excellent. Thank you very much. So group 6.
Okay, hello everyone. We are group 6. So there are 6 members in our group. So my name is Nga, and we have Miss Kim Anh, Miss Thu Nga, Miss Liên Pham, Hon Hagwa, and Mr. Quang Ha. Our facilitator is Miss Thom Thom, who helped us a lot when we created the lesson plan. Without her help and support, we couldn't complete the lesson plan so successfully. So thank you, Miss Thom Thom. And the topic today, we chose is changing roles of men and women. It belongs to Sustainable Development Goal 5. Gender equality. As you know, the United Nations adopted 17 goals, and we want to focus on goal 5. We will teach about 29th grader whose level is B1 in 60 minutes lesson. In the lesson, we want to raise student awareness about changing roles of men and women in Vietnam and in the world. And also students can practice talking about changing roles of men and women and giving their own ideas on this topic. Let's look at our lesson plan, the overview of our lesson plan. And it consists of 5 main parts. As you can see here, we use different kinds of materials and tools to make the lesson plan, to make the lesson interesting and effective. You can see here there are 5 main parts, and for each part we give the activity and also the time and material and tool for each activity. All right, and let's go into the detail of the lesson plan. Warm-up activity. We have two small activity. The first one describing the picture. As you know, picture can evoke the idea for students. So students will have their own idea, and also they can describe what men and women did in the past and as well at present. And after that, the activity number 2, student will go to the idea board to brainstorm the words and phrases about roles of men and women from their own knowledge, own idea. And here is a picture taken from the model lesson that we did with our student last week, when students took part in the lesson and they give the idea on idea board. And the second part, pre-speaking, we have 2 activities as well. And the first one is student watch video and take the job for men and women. You can see here the student will have chance to listen to some new words, and as well learn as well as some words for men and women, and then they do the task. And after that, we teach vocabulary by we give student pronunciation, the meaning of the words, as well as the picture, so that students have chance to put the word into the context and to have them to remember the words better, and we know how to use the words right in the class. And after that, teacher will go to Quizlet to check student understand of the new words. The first part, while speaking, we have 4 activities for this part. It lasts 30 minutes, and here is a 4 activity. Let's go into the detail of while speaking. Activity 1, teacher wants students to give their own ideas. If they agree, so they can give the icon like heart icon on Zoom, and crying face on Zoom to give their disagreement. So it's very convenient and it's very quick response, and teacher can check right at that time. Yeah. So teacher will give a 5 statement with the picture. Here is a 5 statement. And this statement later we use it to have discussion. Yeah. And activity 2, teacher gives students some useful languages, so that students, when they give their own idea, they can use this, like giving opinion, giving reason, and also give examples. So teacher can model example at that time and force some students to give. And activity 3 is a group work. It lasts about 12 minutes. Student will go to breakout room to discuss the assigned statement, and at that time they also post their group answer on Padlet. And after they finish their discussion, they come back to the main room. It is the activity number 4, that's presentation part. Each presenter has no more than 90 seconds to present. And you can see here the picture that taken from the activity my student did last week when they had model lesson. Yeah. And here very short video that
we cannot hear.
You cannot hear, sorry. All right, just very quick.
A modern life and a modern thinking. Whenever they want, especially the women, they can do it. It's easy enough.
Okay, here is a presentation from student, and the first part, post speaking. We have 2 short activity here. We want students to work in pairs in breakout room and to make their own prediction about the roles of men and women in the future. And the teacher will give example like there will be more female leaders, there will be more male primary teacher, and students, they can also give their own ideas, their own prediction. And after that, they will come back to the main room to make the prediction in front of the class. Yeah. And for the last part, the homework, teacher will ask students to record their own report about changing roles of men and women on 3 feet and hand it to the teacher. So yeah, so that's our presentation. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you.
Okay, this is also very amazing, very well thought through, very well structured, and it's really, really good. We really like, I like the equality theme. So we've addressed the SDG, and very interesting, very thought-provoking. I can see very good positive comments in the chat as well. So thank you, group. Did you also, so you've tried it out already as well, so you got some videos from the students, is that right? Yes.
Yeah, the video from student on the model lesson that we did last week. So student make presentation and I extract a short one, the short clip and insert here. Yeah.
Oh, wow, fantastic. And you stuck to time as well, adhere to time. Amazing, really, really good. Very rich presentation like the previous one. Lots of ideas we can get. A lot of ways of adapting it for other purposes. Amazing. Yes, some of you were asking, will these be available? Yes, we'll put them on the ViVEXELT website. And we'll also put the template, the full template of teachers' activities and student activities up on the website so you can see how it is fully structured. Really, really good. Who do we have from group 7 then? Who is group 7?
Yeah, me.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So. Okay, let me just check on the time.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, off
Yeah.
you can go. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let me share the chart.
Yes, we can see your slide. We can see your slide all right.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to join this ViVEXELT project. And I'm very happy to be representative for Group 7 to present our lesson plan today. My group has 2 members to work together, me and Han Phang. So there are some shortenings from this lesson. The first, I will present this our lesson. Yeah. Warm up. We show these pictures. We show the picture and ask our student this question: have you ever seen this natural disaster in our country and in the world? How do you feel about that? And what can we do to reduce, to stop a natural disaster like this? From student answer, a teacher list to the lesson. The lesson today, climate change, is SDG 13 of National United Nations. Yeah. Yeah. The first is that we ask students, what's the difference between the weather and climate? And ask students to watch a video clip, and we divide the class into 4 groups. Expected students in our class about 20 students. So we ask them to watch a video clip. This link to video clip, I present it in generally is a page I have studied from ViVEXELT project. So I apply this into our lesson. Yeah.
Outside your window. Is it hot and sunny? Is it cloudy and rainy? Is there snow on the ground? When you look out the window.
Yeah. After that, we ask students to present their ideas on the Padlet I have presented for them. Yeah, the link to Padlet here. Group 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my student can present their idea on this Padlet. The next question is that we ask students what's climate change. Based on their own knowledge, they can discuss in pair, and they present the idea, what's climate change. After that, teachers summarize the main idea. What's climate change? Climate change is any change, something like that. Yeah. And we turn into the next. We will ask a student to watch a video clip too, and we ask them what are causes of climate change. Based on their own knowledge about the life and watch a video clip, they can give some causes of climate change. Now this link to the video clip.
Grammarly helps you work more efficiently, which makes accomplishing your work goals easier than ever before. Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide,
they present the ideas. And after that, teacher also summarize the main idea. Yeah, teacher show some more pictures, and ask them to give some more information about causes of climate change. And after that, teacher also summarize the main idea. The first one, greenhouse gases. The second, destructions of land ecosystem and deforestation. The third, destruction of marine ecosystem. And last, population increase. As students, after studying the lesson, if students want to have more information, they can join this and to get this information. Yeah, because it's online. The next, while speaking. After that, we continue to divide class into 4 groups too, and ask them how can climate change affect us. We also ask them to watch a video clip. Yeah, this link to the video clip.
Human activities, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes...
Yeah. The leader of each group will present the idea. The leader of each group will present the idea. And we are teachers, so we summarize the main idea for them. Yeah. And I link the summarized idea. Floods, droughts, storms, heavy snowfall, fatal disease, lack of food. Yeah. And the last one. After they have discussed a lot of courses, in fact, so what can we do to stop or to reduce climate change? Ask them to look at this picture and ask them, how do you feel about these pictures? The first, the second, the first, the second, the first, the second, the first, the second, and compare, yeah? And then ask them to watch a video clip too, and ask them a question. How do we stop climate change? This link we insert here. So this link to gives there's some more information. Yeah. Yeah, so we can hear.
Ahead of us. Take your home. To combat climate change, what can we all do to make a difference? Well, fortunately, there's a lot. First, Think about your home. If you're leaving lights on when you don't need them, turn them off. Switch off electrical appliances at the
Yeah, a
wall.
lot.
Don't
1
leave them on
minute.
standby.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that your central heating
Rose?
and hot water uses a gas boiler. So whenever the boiler is on,
So we summarize the main idea. Student present the idea, and then we summarize the idea here. Yeah, and we ask them to play a game climate change on Quizzy. Yeah, here. It's Quizzy. Some chat ball with my Quizzy. Yeah. So this quiz is it talk about climate change causes effects, and we can copy the link here for our students to try the game to make the lesson more interesting. Yeah, that's on our group lesson.
Hey, brilliant. Thank you very much. Amazing use of Genially. You seem to have done very well with Genially and used it in a variety of ways, very rich content. And thank you very much. So thanks a lot. And very, very interesting. Now we're going to have the last presentation, which is from a group from the first course. So these three were from the second round of ViVEXELT, October, November. Now we have two people who are presenting on behalf of their group, and they work together in June, July. And as it happens, one of them has moved from participant to mediator to a certain extent. The other one wanted to, but then she got a job and couldn't. So over to you, Anne and Angela. Where are you?
Hi, I'm here. I didn't know that was my introduction. Amazing. Okay. Hey, are you able to share?
Okay.
Anne sharing. So Anne, Tran, and Angela now presenting from cohort 1 of ViVEXELT. And there'll be a mixture of kind of blog and reflection and lesson plan, isn't it, Angela and Anne? So it's now over to you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. This is very exciting to be here. I unfortunately finished class at 2, so I didn't catch everyone's input today, but from what I've seen, it looks very engaging and exciting. It's really nice to have the community together from both of the phases. So thank you very much. And do you want to say something to start?
I'm happy to be back and really excited.
We are. So we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences in the first phase, as Marina said. So that happened in June, July last year. I keep saying last year, it's not, it's this year, isn't it? In this year. And we were asked to write a blog talking about our experiences, which was, yeah, really interesting. We got to collaborate again, which was very exciting. Next slide, please. So I think for us, the biggest thing we wanted to talk about first was the fact that this project was the first time we had the chance to really talk about our experiences moving online after the pandemic hit. And I think it was really it stood out to us in the way that we'd never had that opportunity to collaborate and to talk to other people who are experiencing the same things. And we realized that obviously, you know, we weren't having unique experiences. This is something that was felt in a lot of places. So we discussed in the sessions that teaching, we thought at the beginning that, you know, you could just go online and then teach whatever you did in the classroom, right? But we realized very quickly that that wasn't always possible. We did our best trying to sort of cater for the online needs, but we realized that no, that's not actually going to happen. So we knew that we needed to change, but we didn't really know how. And I think we didn't know how to identify it in a lot of ways. We had some successes, but, you know, a lot of challenges along the way. So I think when we started the course and we read the article with Morehouse, Lee and Walsh, that they highlighted these competencies in the e-classroom, and it really sort of gave us the idea of, oh wow, like these are the things we do need to make our e-classroom actually work. And that was really nice because it gave a lot of new perspectives for us. And actually in an academic article, you know, someone's already studied this and done the research, and here we were talking about it, which was fantastic. And I think we had a lot of expectations that we carried over from the normal classroom into online, and then we realized very quickly that that just had to change, didn't it? Okay, thank you. Next slide.
Okay, and one of the things I really appreciate about the course is that ViVEXELT provided us with the opportunity to try a lot of digital tools, such as Zoom and Padlet, which I think a lot of us here are already familiar with. And with Idea Boards and Answer Garden, I highly recommend them. Yeah, highly recommend, because they are great platforms when it comes to hosting Q&A sessions, as well as like giving students a place so that they can like showcase their work and to collect students' feedback, of course. With Adobe Spark, it's a bit more complex, but if you get the hang of it, then everything, it falls into place. And it's great if students want to like showcase their work in a variety of ways, with media files, with videos, with images, things like that. So it was really great that we got to know about these platforms and tools. And so I found them to be really useful in my own classes.
So obviously, I mean, we're learning a lot of different tools and things like that, but I think one of the best things about the project was meeting people online. And, the online space is quite a strange one, even though we're always attached to our phones and things. But when you come together on an online forum and you think, oh, wow, okay, what's going to happen here? And I think that was the best part of the project, was being able to meet on a weekly basis and practice our interactional and intercultural skills online, and having a group from so many different parts of the world. It's just very exciting to be able to do that and have the opportunity to meet together regularly, I guess, over the 4 weeks. So the thing about online, I think, is that something we need to get used to as online teachers is that we don't always need to have our cameras on. We don't always need to be, with our audio on. We can also express ourselves either with an emoji. So, I try and use those as much as possible. Yeah, I don't have to say love, but I can show it with that little emoji. Obviously, speaking is a really important part, but communication isn't just about the words that we speak. So it's really important to be able to use the chat functions. And also, one thing that we did, if people weren't comfortable or they really didn't know what to say maybe in the sessions, they were able to go post session and actually comment on the forum that we had, where lots of questions and ideas were shared, which was a really fantastic opportunity to sort of, I guess, reflect on what we've done in the sessions. Oh, there we go, that's an example. So this was funny actually, because I met Ang, I think we must have met in one of the first weeks, but we didn't realize that we'd actually kind of commented on each other's posts in the forum. So I found this, which I thought was a bit cute, that we actually met in week 1 and we'd been commenting on each other's posts, and then now we've kind of, got a little friendship now, which is really makes me happy. But yeah, so we actually were commenting in week 1, which was fun. But yeah, I found this a really nice opportunity to sort of read what people were saying and then respond and be thoughtful about what I was saying as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we also collaborated, as we all know, with the lesson plans. And I think, collaboration can always be quite complex, managing all different personalities and different people. So we were quite lucky in our group. We, I think we had, pretty much everyone quite active in the session. So that was really cool when we got to, meet up, organize what we were going to do, and then, asynchronously get together and make it work and come up with a pretty good lesson plan. But we won't really talk too much about it. We've looked at lots of lesson plans. You're probably tired of lesson plans. But next slide, I think.
Okay, so about the lesson plan, it was also based on one of the SDG. We chose the 4th one about quality education for everyone. And by discussing this SDG, we found out that we were really interested in adult education, and we wanted to ensure lifelong learning opportunities for everyone, even those who are a bit older. And now let's come to like, so the whole experience of collaborating with everyone. So we were in a group of 8, a big group. And so it was quite challenging to like schedule meetings and just to like work together at around the same time, because we were in different time zones and we had our own schedule to stick to. But luckily, as Angela said, we were all really active and we tried to make things work. The online collaboration experience was challenging, but it was also really rewarding. And there was this really funny story about the night before we had to submit the lesson plan. So we were all working together on a single Google Doc, and we left messages for each other, we left comments, we asked questions, and we edited the document together. So it was like our work materialized into like a single, I wouldn't say perfect, but it was, I guess, the best possible version of the lesson plan because it had all of our input. And I think Angela would like to talk more about the SDG that we chose.
Oh, yes. I mean, this was just quickly, I think in a lot of places around the world, there's kind of this idea of education having an expiry date, like in terms of your age, you know, like, oh, if you don't go to uni straight after school, you're going to miss out. And I think one thing that I learned as a mature age student going back to uni at 27, I think I was, and I met so many people of all sorts of ages. I think my 2 best friends were in their mid-40s doing their degrees for the first time. And it really just opened my eyes to education is for everybody whenever they want, whenever they can access it. And I think when we first met with the group, we kind of, you know, threw some ideas around and we realized that this was something we were all quite interested in. So we did a bit of research and we found this article about a woman in Kenya who was a great-great-grandmother, and she was 90 and went to school for the first time. And these kinds of stories, I feel, are quite heartwarming. And it just really shows it doesn't really matter how old you are. You can always learn. We're always learning, right? I don't think it's something that ever stops. It's not a start and an end. It's always, you know, it's a lifelong thing. So that was something that really struck with us. So yeah, we decided to choose that.
Is 1 minute enough, Angela?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, this is just an example of just a snippet of the lesson plan collaboration. But something we did try and do was use as many of the tools from the project in the actual lesson plan. Just seeing the lesson plans from today, I saw, wow, there are so many tools out there that I even learn after coming for 10 minutes, and I've already learned some new tools. So thank you very much for sharing. Next slide.
Okay, so next, moving on to the sense of community. So by the end of the course, it was clearer and clearer that we had created this community of teachers and aspiring teachers who are really active and passionate about what they do. And this community is a very supportive one and a very safe one where we can like share our experiences and our beliefs and our solutions to the challenges that we face. And I think that it was quite the bonding experience because like the challenges that we face in the context, for instance, in Vietnam, also resonated with the challenge with what teachers overseas face. And I was really like interested in this sense of community, and I really hope that even with the newer cycles in the future, that this community can grow and can prosper. And I hope that we both hope that for future participants, if you're interested in the project, we hope that you can actively join the discussions, get to know each other, and make the most of the experience.
Definitely.
Angela?
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I think it's a unique place to be together, and I think we have so many things in common, and I think it's important to continue this if possible. So thank you very much to everyone who organized it, Marina, and everybody behind the team, Tom and Tui as well. We really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for listening to us today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And also, if you're interested in this reflection on the ViVEXELT webpage, we actually have the blog, which is, I like this, vivify your teaching. What did you call it? Vivify with ViVEXELT. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, we tried, we like a little bit of alliteration. So we threw around some words. Can't remember the other ones that made they didn't make it, but yeah, we just thought, oh, why not?
Also, it was interesting that you chose lifelong learning as a theme, as an SDG theme, because I'm a great believer in lifelong learning. And I think we are all here because we all believe in lifelong learning. We never stop learning. And, you know, even if you are ancient like me and in the age of the dinosaurs nearly, but you're still ready to learn. And I've learned a lot. Yeah, I've learned a lot from all of you. So what I like to do now, because we are a bit late, running late, do you mind if we move straight to the last session and then we keep some questions for the end? Is that okay for everybody? Yes, okay. In which case, with much further ado, I'm going to share screen myself because I think I have the presentation. Introduction. I hope, no, oh dear. Right, give me a second, people. Okay, here it is. It is here, but it's not coming up in my Zoom. What's happened? Oh dear. Right, let me just bring it up. Advanced files. I don't want to do. You know what? I'm going to have to show all windows. That's what I was looking for. Show all windows. Here we go. My mediators, do not panic. It's coming. Okay, I got an echo now. Can I ask everybody to mute, please, because we have an echo now, and I need to speak now to introduce this session. So thanks everybody. If you could mute yourselves, and I'm going to. Oh, there's something in the chat before I start. Let me just see.
Farida, don't worry.
Okay.
I didn't thank Farida. Thank you, Farida.
Okay. Oh dear, that's bad. Okay. Angela has thanked Farida, that's official. All right, so can I just say, for those of you who don't know, Farida is Angela's boss in the Refugee and Migrant Center. So
I'm in big trouble now, no.
Okay, what I like to do, so everybody mute, please, if you're not speaking. And we are going to talk about eSeek, and I've added one eye, because while Morehouse, Lee and Walsh already mentioned before here, they've done a lot of work on classroom interaction. Now they've moved to e-classroom interaction. And what I like to add is the interactional and intercultural competence. So my intercultural is my addition to the article, because I think they cover it, but only marginally. So what I like to do this, because we've been talking about this Morehouse, Lee and Walsh. The article is 2021, recently out. It surveyed many teachers all over the world, and the teachers came up with what they needed. These were the competencies they felt they needed. And as Angela mentioned in the previous talk, we agreed these were the competencies. In particular, Morehouse, Lee and Walsh identify this idea how difficult it is to communicate content across the screen because we don't have the paralinguistic features we have in class, and how challenging it can be. And at the time it takes, longer time, sometimes we forget. Engaged learners in the two-dimensional, we're flat, we're a flat screen. We're not three-dimensional yet. Perhaps with artificial intelligence coming along now in the metaverse, we might be able to go three-dimensional, but not yet. Even if there are already some virtual exchanges using augmented reality, which are going three-dimensional. So we can probably go there with the next ViVEXELT. Facilitate interaction in digital classroom, not easy. And it is so easy for the participants to withdraw and disappear and stay behind black boxes. We all know that. Attend to students' emotional needs. And in my research, I found over and over again, most participants and students do not like technology to begin with. They have very strong prejudices against technology. They're still anxious about technology despite COVID. And so there is all that emotional side which needs to be addressed. And it has intercultural nuances. So I found some nations, some cultures are more open to technology than others. Even in the East, So I have students from the East, from different countries in the East and the South and the West, and they have different attitudes depending on their beliefs on technology. And also maintain a sense of presence. This is a big theme. Interestingly enough, if you're interested in presence, is something that Facebook's now Meta boss has addressed in the video, which you might find online on the metaverse. And sense of presence is the first thing he talks about, our Zuckerberg. And troubleshoot technical difficulties, of course. So these are the kind of the milestones in this article we have been studying on ViVEXELT. But I always bring back, and Teresa, if she's still with us, she will recognize this. I think when we used to call it telecollaboration before it became virtual exchange and collaborative online international learning, we also had all these other intercultural features. We had all the literacies, and it's not just the technical literacies, it's critical digital literacies. And I don't believe in the digital natives. Prensky talks about my students being digital natives. Believe me, they're not. I teach them every day. And they need to learn more because you're more employable if you acquire these competencies. So, of course, we also know that the Common European Framework, another element in ViVEXELT, has changed. It now includes online interaction in the new compendium. So we have to address this. The Vietnam policy on languages is that you have adopted the Common European Framework. In the UK, it is a bit hit and miss. In theory, it should be adopted, but not everybody adopts it. Of course, in Europe, it is adopted throughout. And then it's a mixed picture depending on other countries. But I believe even in China, they're now talking about adopting this. So without carrying on too much myself, I'd like to move on now to our results. And I'd like to introduce you to our research assistant on ViVEXELT, Jenny, who is now going to take over from me. Jenny, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Yes, I'm Jenny, working as the research assistant on ViVEXELT. And I'm going to just talk you through some preliminary sort of research results that we've had. We asked participants to submit reflective journals on their ViVEXELT experience. And we've analysed 22 journals from phase 1 of the project using NVivo software, and ran a word frequency query to reveal the 1,000 most frequent words in those reflections. And this word cloud here is a visual representation of that query. Obviously, the general words here really stand out. So you've got online students and teaching. But what's interesting is that breakout was the 5th most frequent word and rooms was the 7th. So this breakout rooms emerge as a real key topic, key theme from this analysis. Next slide, please. And there were lots of positive responses to experiencing breakout rooms, which was great. This idea of the secure, safe space. Someone said I could be listened to and noticed. So this opportunity to move into a smaller space was really welcomed. Okay, lessons came more interesting. There was interaction and engagement and opportunities to exchange ideas and interact with each other. And also this, building rapport through informal chat, this recognition that interacting informally is so important, and the breakout room facilitated that. And another one there, with teachers, so reducing teacher talking time, taking the focus off the teacher and onto the students. Breakout rooms obviously can be used for that. Yeah, next slide, please. And obviously there were some challenges that came through in those reflections. And it's just important to say here that these, we've tried to look at these in the phase 2 of the project. But these are some actual quotes here. I'm not going to sort of go through all of them, but just one or two. The first one, if instructions are missed when everyone goes into the breakout rooms, how does everyone know what to do? you know, the session's not going to be productive, is it? So that was a key point that came through. Second one there is about lack of equipment. Some students perhaps didn't have a microphone. So there's this recognition that, you know, everyone hasn't got the same access to technology. And, you know, how do we then address that? If you have to start using the chat box to write, that can take time. So there's considerations like that. And then perhaps just the third one there about, you know, someone said it's only suitable for students to actively get involved in learning and have medium or higher level English proficiency. So there's sort of a, you know, what about the more reluctant students really? What about what's holding them back? How can we bring them in? Because everyone needs to be brought in. Couple more at the bottom there, but I'll move on. Don't want to take too much time. What was coming out of these challenges really was this recognition of a mediator roles. You know, some help's needed in the breakout groups. They're not just going to happen on their own. So to address technology, perhaps, you know, someone needs to monitor the activity, perhaps point students to the chat box. You know, if you can't use your microphone, use the chat box. Ensure everyone's on track and knows what to do. Make sure that everyone knows what to do with the task. And, you know, how do we bring those reluctant participants in? Let's, you know, encourage them, empower them to get involved, and that can happen in the breakout room. And obviously, while doing that, you know, the time management of it all. So there's kind of a whole role there that's coming through. Yeah, next slide, thanks. But, you know, there's still this problem remaining. And someone actually said this, you know, in the real online class, there's only one teacher with perhaps 30 or 40 students, and it's very difficult to control the breakout rooms. So what do we do? And here were some reflections for action that came through from the writing. So, you know, talking about clear instructions, maybe the teachers have to move from room to room if possible to sort of explain things, just clarify things. Someone wrote, I plan to also to assign a group leader, moderator for each breakout room. And that's something I think that a lot of people have been saying since. And then you know, looking at different levels, thinking about who you put into breakout rooms and mixing students up so they can scaffold learning with each other. And then finally, yes, let's, you know, those teaching competencies that have been talked about already, we need to make sure as teachers that we acquire those and we keep them up to date. So that we're always sort of ready in this online environment. And it'll, just before I move on, it'll be interesting to see, I think, if we compare the reflections from phase 2, what's changed. But anyway, I'm going to now hand over to Farida, who's my colleague on ViVEXELT.
Hi everyone, afternoon and evening. My name is Farida Butt and I'm an ESOL manager at the Coventry Refugee and Migrant Centre, and we teach English to speakers of other languages from refugee and migrant backgrounds. I'm also a master's student on the English language teaching and applied linguistics course at Coventry University, and I've been working on this project as expert student. So I'm currently working on my dissertation and I'm creating a guide for ESIC mediators on how to moderate in Zoom breakout rooms. And this comes from reflections, observations, and interviews with other ESIC mediators on the challenges that we have encountered in Zoom breakout rooms and some possible solutions to these challenges. So some of the ones that Jenny has mentioned. So remembering instructions or understanding instructions is one that we found that was quite difficult. As often we find that participants don't ask for clarifications. They might be shy, they might be uncomfortable in asking things in front of others in a public space. And obviously these fall under the online management competencies, as well as netiquettes. So online etiquettes, which include turn taking asking and answering questions, and time management in breakout rooms. We also need to ensure that everyone is involved whilst working in the breakout room and everybody participating. People can participate in different ways, which we'll look at. So what did we learn and how did we overcome these challenges? So as ESIC mediators, we tried to encourage participants in breakout rooms to put on their audio and video, as this helped participants to engage with everyone in the breakout room. If I can see you, obviously, it makes it easier for me to interact with you. But we also found that there were lurkers, and we defined the lurkers as, not we defined, VAX 2010 defines lurkers as those who do not interact, people who don't have their audio or their videos on. But we learned that that doesn't necessarily mean non-participation, as environmental factors can contribute to people not participating and not feeling comfortable within those breakout rooms. And that's one of our jobs. That was one of our jobs that we needed to encourage people to do. We were also aware, however, that it was very late in the evening in Vietnam. Participants would often face distractions. For example, there'd be young children at home, and people might be doing other activities, which were, you know, as we understood, 9 o'clock in the evening, you might be putting children to bed or, other things. And we had to manage that environment. And we found that being empathetic was an additional skill needed, and that this was key in making people feel comfortable in the breakout room. So just assuring them it was okay for them to put their cameras on. We understood there might be screaming children around, but as long as they were able to participate in their own way. Having 2 phases to this project was pivotal, as this helped us to understand many concepts mentioned above and develop our skills as ESIC mediators, and this was an important aspect. Many participants in phase 1 went on to become ESIC mediators in phase 2. And then one of these concepts that we realized was quite important was what Jenny also mentioned, was managing our time and time. So time keeps coming up again and again, because we realized that breakout room, not only were we completing tasks, it was also a space for people for socializing and building those relationships. So if I'm able to build a relationship, it's easier for me to complete a task with them. And then obviously we had the interactive lesson plan as well, which we needed to know each other in order to complete those. So in phase 2, the ESIC mediator had a more active role due to the lessons learned in phase 1. We did act as scribes, we summarized conversations, we scaffolded, we showed participants how to use the different Zoom functions. It might have been the chat, emojis, or other function, in order for them to feel comfortable to communicate orally or in the written chat. So these were the new tools, and we also had to learn how to use the new tools that were introduced. So I found myself in quite a hot spot with Genially. I found it quite difficult to use, but we found that by using these tools, we were able to help participants as well in using these. So we found that we had to have multitasking skills, and these were ones that we were developing over the course of the 2 phases. I'm just going to finish off by saying, despite all of the challenges, it's been a very positive and informative experience for me. I've learned so much from this virtual exchange, and hopefully the ESIC Mediators Guide in Zoom breakout rooms should be out soon. And we hope to develop that guide as far as we can. Thank you to everybody. I think it's over to Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Farida. Hi, my name is Mike Cribb, and I'm an instructor at Coventry University. And I was one of the ESIC mediators. And it was a good experience for me, because usually when I'm going into Zoom, I'm going in as a teacher. And it brought me back to this idea that a teacher always has to be learning themselves. So it's always good to put yourself in a student's position. And this is what I was able to do through this mediator role. And it got me thinking about this idea of the teacher, the student, and the content. If we could have the next slide, please. Yeah, Garrison's and Anderson's interaction theory brings in this idea of teacher, student, and content. And these communication channels between the three things. And in order to get a sort of meaningful learning out of that, you need to have very good channels of communications. And as a teacher, quite often you're developing a task for a class, you've got some content there, and you work with that content for, you know, several days, and you're thinking about it, and you're saying, this is how it's going to work. This is why I want to do it. And you invest a lot of time in that. But for the students, the investment in that content and the task is much shallower. They're coming to it very new on the day. They don't know why they're having been asked to do it really. They perhaps don't fully understand the instructions. So what we tend to do is we throw the students into the breakout room. So if I could have the next slide there, Marina. And it's very easy, isn't it, as a teacher to just create breakout rooms. Zoom is perfect for this, and Teams as well. You know, you just click a button and suddenly all your students have disappeared into very nice, neat rooms. You can do it randomly, all sorts of permutations, and you can just sit back and have a little coffee before you start joining the rooms. And I think we've got to be a little bit careful that we don't just sort of use this as an escape, because what happens is we throw the students into the room and they have a very shallow understanding of what the task is or what the content is. There's very little motivation for them to engage with that. As I say, they're coming to that very new and on the day. And quite often they will just sit back and think, well, you know, this is a task that I've been asked to do, but why should I? So the mediator obviously is the in-between person between the student and the teacher, and between the content and the task. And I think that's why you do need mediators. But what I was thinking was that as you develop Zoom classes over the weeks, perhaps there can be a change in the way that the breakout rooms work. Early on, you want to have content and tasks that is much closer to what the students want to talk about. So it needs to be content that is relevant to them. It needs to be content that is fairly easy for them to grasp, with a simple task that's very sort of structured. And then obviously as you move on, thanks, Madeline. That was great. That's some great.
Sorry, Mike. I played by mistake.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the mediators. We're trying to show how the mediators can come in between the and maintain those strong relationships. And I think it's important that we do say that, you know, effectively, we can't all have mediators. We can't have paid mediators in our classrooms. So we do really have to start thinking of how the students themselves can become mediators, you know, and it's one of the competencies, I think, rather than just having the teacher developing this amazing interactional competence and solving everything. I think we've got to look towards our students to perhaps start getting into these mediator roles. So just the last slide, I think I did mention that yeah, I've summarized the problem there at the top, and this idea that we start out with breakout rooms that students can succeed with, generally bonding ones, content, easy tasks, and then as your course moves on and the weeks go by, maybe you can then move to more advanced breakout rooms. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks a lot.